My name is Alex, and I work as a senior manager at a local bowling club. My life is pretty ordinary. Work, home, family. Nothing special, but it suits me. I'm married to a wonderful woman named Kate, and we live in a small, cozy house in the suburbs. Kate and her mother, Mary, have always been very close. They constantly spend time together, going shopping, to yoga, to cafes. Sometimes I even joke that I have two wives, one official and the other my mother-in-law. Mary is a sweet woman, but a little shy and insecure. She was widowed a few years ago and has been living alone ever since. Kate always tries to support and encourage her. Last week, Kate came home all excited. "Alex, guess what? Mom and I signed up for a self-defense seminar. This is exactly what she needs to feel more confident," she chattered. I nodded approvingly. I liked that Kate was taking care of her mom. "Great idea, honey. When do the classes start?" I asked. "This Saturday. We're so looking forward to it," Kate replied, beaming with joy. "But as they say, man proposes, but life disposes." On Friday evening, Kate came down with a high fever and all the signs of the flu. She could barely get out of bed, let alone go to the seminar. I brought her tea and medicine, trying to ease her suffering in any way I could. Kate looked upset not so much because of the illness, but because she was letting her mother down. "Alex, I wanted to go with Mom to the seminar so badly. She's been waiting for this day for so long," Kate said, almost crying. And then an idea came to me. What if I go to this seminar with Mary myself? Of course, I don't know much about self-defense, but at least I can support my mother-in-law and keep her from getting bored. "Listen, why don't I go with Mary instead of you? I don't want her to miss such an event or feel insecure," I suggested. Kate looked at me with gratitude and surprise. "You'd really do that for Mom? Oh, Alex, you're amazing." I smiled, pleased with my idea and my wife's reaction. Now I just had to let Mary know about the small change of plans. I hope she won't mind my company. On Saturday morning, I picked up Mary to go to the seminar together. She looked surprised to see me at the doorstep. "Alex, where's Kate?" she asked, looking around for her daughter. "Kate got sick and couldn't make it. But she wanted you not to miss this seminar so much that she asked me to keep you company," I explained. Mary was touched and even teared up. "Oh, Alex, that's so sweet of you. But you really shouldn't trouble yourself. I can go alone." I interrupted her. "No buts, Mary. I'd be happy to spend this day with you. Besides, you never know when self-defense skills might come in handy," I winked. Mary smiled and nodded. We got into the car and headed to the seminar, chatting about various trivial things. When we arrived at the venue, a decent crowd had already gathered. It was mostly women of different ages, but there were also men. Everyone looked enthusiastic and ready for the class. The instructor, a stocky middle-aged man, greeted us and explained the plan for the session. First, there would be a little warm-up, then practicing basic techniques, and at the end, sparring in pairs. Mary and I stood next to each other and started repeating the movements after the instructor. At first, everything was quite simple: punches, blocks, dodges, but gradually the exercises became more and more complex and intense. I noticed that Mary began to lag behind and get confused in her movements. She looked tense and lost. I felt sorry for her and decided to cheer up my mother-in-law a bit. "Hey, Mary, you're doing great," I said, although it was an obvious lie. "Let's try again together. I'll show you how to do it right." I stood opposite Mary and began slowly showing her the movements, explaining each step. She diligently repeated after me, and gradually she started doing better and better. We continued training together, and I noticed that the physical closeness during the exercises somehow brought us closer. We laughed when someone couldn't get something right, encouraged each other, and rejoiced in our successes. At some point, the instructor announced a break, and Mary and I went to the water cooler to rest and refresh ourselves. "Thank you, Alex," Mary suddenly said, looking at me with a warm smile. "I don't know what I would have done without your help. With you, I feel much more confident." I felt a pleasant warmth spreading in my chest from her words. "Always happy to help, Mary. You're doing just great," I replied, and this time I wasn't lying. We smiled at each other and returned to the class, not suspecting where this unusual day would lead us. The seminar continued, and Mary and I became more and more involved in the process. The instructor showed us different self-defense techniques: how to break free from a grip, how to block a blow, how to neutralize an attacker. We diligently repeated after him, sometimes stumbling and getting confused, but supporting each other. At some point, the instructor announced that it was time to move on to sparring. He divided us into pairs and told us to practice the learned techniques on each other. Mary and I naturally stood together. At first, it was a bit awkward. After all, it's not every day you train with your own mother-in-law, but gradually we got used to it and began to practice punches and blocks, trying not to hurt each other. During one of the exercises, Mary accidentally stumbled and fell right onto me. I instinctively hugged her to keep her from falling. We froze in this embrace, breathing heavily and looking into each other's eyes. Suddenly, I felt a spark run between us. It was a strange, exciting feeling that I had never experienced before with Mary. Judging by her gaze, she felt the same. The moment lasted only a few seconds, but it seemed to me that an eternity had passed. Finally, we pulled away from each other, smiling awkwardly and averting our eyes. "I'm sorry, Alex, I'm so clumsy," Mary mumbled, adjusting her clothes. "No worries, it happens to everyone," I replied, trying to remain calm, although everything was trembling inside. We continued training, but the atmosphere between us had already changed. Every touch, every glance seemed filled with hidden meaning. I tried to focus on the exercises, but my thoughts kept returning to that strange moment of closeness. When the seminar was finally over, Mary and I went outside, squinting in the bright sunlight. We were silent, not knowing what to say to each other after all that had happened. "Well, shall we take a little walk?" I suggested, breaking the silence. "Let's discuss what we learned today." Mary nodded, and we strolled slowly down the street, glancing at each other furtively from time to time. "You know, Alex, I'm so grateful to you for this day," Mary suddenly said. "Not only for agreeing to go with me, but also for your support, for how you helped me in class. With you, I feel so protected." Her words took my breath away. I looked at Mary and saw the same feeling in her eyes that had arisen in me: desire, tenderness, something else that I couldn't name. I'm also very glad that we spent this day together, Mary," I replied, gently taking her hand. "You're an amazing woman, and I admire your courage, your desire to become better." We fell silent, simply enjoying the moment and each other's presence. I felt my heart beating faster and faster, and crazy thoughts swarming in my head. Am I falling in love with my own mother-in-law? How could this happen? And what should I do with these feelings now? Our walk came to an end, and I volunteered to walk Mary home. The whole way we were silent, immersed in our thoughts and emotions. I glanced at Mary, admiring her profile, and trying to understand what she was thinking about. When we reached her house, Mary suddenly stopped and turned to me. There was such a storm of emotions in her eyes that it took my breath away. "Alex, I have to tell you something," she began in a trembling voice. "Today, at the seminar, I felt something special, something I shouldn't have felt for my daughter's husband." My heart began to race wildly. "So I wasn't mistaken, and this attraction was mutual." "Mary, I felt it too," I replied, taking a step towards her. "And I don't know what to do with it. It's so wrong, but at the same time—" I didn't have time to finish. Mary suddenly leaned forward and kissed me, passionately, desperately, as if afraid that I would disappear if she let me go. I was confused for only a moment, and then I responded to the kiss, putting all my feelings and desires into it. We kissed as if possessed, forgetting about everything in the world. Hands slid over each other's bodies, breaths mingled, hearts beat in unison. I don't know how it happened, but at some point we found ourselves in the house, not interrupting our crazy dance of passion. Clothes flew to the floor, bodies entwined on the soft carpet in the living room. We made love as if it was the last time, giving ourselves to each other completely. It was madness. It was real insanity, but we could not and did not want to stop. Only afterwards, we lay next to each other, breathing heavily and not daring to look each other in the eye. The realization of what we had done was slowly seeping into our consciousness, replacing the euphoria of the moment. "God, Alex, what have we done?" Mary whispered, covering her face with her hands. The feeling of guilt crashed down on me like an icy wave. Mary was right. We had betrayed Kate, my wife, and her daughter. How to live with this burden on our hearts now? "Mary, listen," I began, gently taking her hands away from her face and looking into her eyes, red from tears. What happened? It was a mistake, a momentary weakness that we shouldn't have allowed ourselves, but now the most important thing is to keep it a secret. Mary nodded, sobbing. Yes, you're right. Kate must never find out. It would break her heart. We have to forget what happened and go on as if nothing had happened. We sat in silence for a long time, not touching each other, immersed in our thoughts and emotions. Finally, I got up and started getting dressed. I have to go, Mary. Kate will be worried about where I've gone, I said, carefully avoiding her gaze. Mary nodded, also starting to gather the scattered clothes. Yes, of course, go, and thank you for today, despite everything. I froze at the doorstep, fighting the temptation to turn around and take her in my arms again. But I knew that if I did that, I wouldn't be able to stop. So I just nodded and walked out the door, carrying the weight of our shared secret and the bitterness of unfulfilled hopes. The next few days were hard for me. I tried to act as usual, smile at Kate, go to work, do everyday things. But inside me, it was as if a black hole had formed, sucking in all emotions and thoughts. I couldn't stop thinking about Mary, about what had happened between us. Every night I dreamed of our crazy kisses, our entwined bodies, her quiet moans of pleasure. I would wake up in a cold sweat, hating myself for these dreams and for my betrayal. Kate, of course, noticed that something was wrong with me. She tried to talk to me, to find out what was wrong, but I remained silent or joked it off, citing fatigue and stress at work. It was unbearable for me to lie to her, but I understood that the truth would cause her even more pain. Mary and I tried not to be alone together. At family gatherings and celebrations, we kept our distance, exchanging only polite phrases and strained smiles. But every time our eyes met, I saw a reflection of my own feelings in her eyes. Longing, guilt, regret. Once we couldn't stand it. We bumped into each other by chance in the kitchen while everyone else was watching TV in the living room. For a few moments, we just looked at each other, afraid to move or breathe. And then Mary took a step forward and hugged me. Just hugged, without any subtext, burying her face in my chest. I froze, feeling her tears soaking my shirt. "Forgive me, Alex," she whispered. "Forgive me for everything. I didn't want it to turn out like this. I didn't want to hurt you or Kate." I hugged her back, stroking her hair and feeling a lump rising in my throat. "I'm also to blame, Mary, no less than you. But we have to be strong. We have to forget what happened and move on. For Kate's sake, for the sake of our families." We stood like that for a long time, embracing and drawing silent support from each other. And then we broke the embrace and left the kitchen, forever leaving our secret and our unfulfilled dreams behind the threshold. Time passed, and our life gradually returned to its usual course. Mary and I learned to communicate freely again, without flinching from accidental touches and without blushing from ambiguous phrases. Kate, my wonderful, unsuspecting wife, was happy that I had become my old self again, cheerful, attentive, caring. She often thanked me for supporting her mother in a difficult moment by going to that ill-fated seminar with her. Oh, if only she knew how I really supported Mary. This thought made me physically ill, and I mentally slapped myself again for what I had done. But what happened, happened. No matter how much we regretted it, no matter how much we reproached ourselves, the past cannot be changed. We could only live with this burden on our hearts, trying not to make new mistakes and blunders. Sometimes, of course, I would catch myself thinking, what if? What if Mary and I had a future? What if we were in love and decided to risk everything for the sake of our love? Would we destroy our families, cause pain to our loved ones, but at least be together, happy and free? But I drove these thoughts away, realizing all their absurdity and selfishness. Too much was at stake. The price of our possible happiness was too high. Mary and I would never do such a thing, certainly not consciously. So we just lived on, keeping our secret deep in our hearts. We smiled, joked, made plans, and no one looking at us would have thought what a storm had once raged in our souls. Of course, I didn't become an ideal husband overnight. Kate and I still had quarrels and disagreements like any normal family. But I tried to be the best version of myself, to atone for my guilt with honesty, care, and attention. And my secret story with Mary, it forever remained in the past. A bitter short experience. A painful lesson, but at the same time a beautiful, exciting memory of how easily forbidden passion flares up and just as quickly fades away. I don't regret what happened, because it is impossible to regret love, even if it is fleeting and doomed. But I am grateful to fate for not allowing us to destroy our lives and cause pain to the people dear to us. Sometimes, lying sleepless next to the peacefully snoring Kate, I think about Mary. I hope that she also found the strength to let go of the past and live in the present. That she loves her family just as endlessly and values what she has. And our secret, well, everyone should have their own secret. A small corner of the soul where no stranger's gaze will penetrate. A place where our dreams, our regrets, and our memories are kept. About everything that we once lost, but forever preserved in our hearts. Did you like this story? Let us know in the comments what you liked. Subscribe to our storytelling podcast. Also, don't forget to like and ring the bell so you don't miss more interesting stories. See you soon.